You're probably looking like, oh my goodness, it's a new Mad Props. This is crazy. There hasn't been one in months. Where have you been? It's been months. Well, you read it right. There's new Mad Props, and we're about to start right now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Mad Props. I am your host, Chris Schnabel, and you may have noticed we've been gone for a little bit, and people have been wondering, where are you? Why aren't you doing Mad Props? Who's the next guest? All this other stuff, and we're going to get to all that in just a minute. But, I mean, you haven't had a lack of my voice if you're listening to this, or if you're watching this. You haven't had a lack of seeing my face, because I've been on Sketching Up. I've been on my new podcast, Offstage Podcast, which is kind of a rebirth of an old one. But go listen to it. You'll get the whole spiel on that. It's a very good behind the scenes of a series that I used to do about 10 years ago. I really enjoy doing that one. I really open up my soul about filmmaking in that one. So if you're interested in that, go check that out. But you can also follow us at Schnabel Studios on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter to find out everything going on with us. We've been posting a little bit more. And we try to get at least twice a week out there. We're trying. Just two of us right now, so we're trying. You can also listen to us on anywhere you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, Google. Just search Schnabel Studios, and you'll find every show within the catalog, including this one, Sketching Up, Offstage, all that. So do that. I highly recommend it. But let's get right into it. It's not going to be a long podcast. There's no guests, by the way. This is only the second time there's no guests. The first one, I was doing this comics and courts thing. I was going across the country, and I did kind of a recap. It's not that that didn't work. It worked okay. It was about the same as any other episode was, but I just kind of stopped posting about them because I just got really busy. And I was like, why am I going to continue to try to do this comics and courts thing if I'm too busy to do it. So I did that one. That was the only other solo cast of the entire show. I think on this show I'm going to kind of talk about what's been going on, why there haven't been as many episodes. It's not a big thing or anything like that. Obviously, I'm not like sick or in peril or anything like that because I've been doing Sketching Up and Offstage. But we're going to talk a little bit about why Mad Props has been taking so long, and then we're going to talk a little bit about like what's coming up for Mad Props. Maybe look a little bit back in 2022 because even though we didn't have that many episodes, we did have some episodes out there. So let's start with why this is the first episode since August 15th of 2022. So that's a long time ago. So 2022 was tough for me. I was finishing up grad school until May. And then during the summer, I really tried to grind down and just try to find a job after school. So it went from being very busy with school to trying to move into the next stage of my life, basically. So it was hard to find guests. If you actually look back at the catalog, sorry if I look down, I'm going to look at the catalog. We had two in February, one in March, May, June, August. So, you could see the trend there. Like, started off kind of hot, slowed down. In the summer, we picked up a little bit, and then August, we just completely fell off, and we'll get to why in just a second. So at the end of August, I found a job. I was living in Spokane, Washington, because I went to Gonzaga, and I found a job in Hartford, Connecticut, which is the job I'm currently doing right now. So I had to pack up all my stuff and move across the country. Within this time, I was actually working another job, and you might see it on my shirt, the U.S. Open. I worked the U.S. Open in 2021. I was going back to do it in 2022, which I have some great experiences from that. This is not the podcast to talk about it, but I had great experiences from that. But I also, in between all that, I had so from June 16th, which was Scott Koblish's episode, until August 15th, which was the Jonathan Osborne episode. I had to go to New York for a funeral for a family passing. My cousin got married in there. I was working the U.S. Open, and then I was moving across the country. So it just got really just. I went from finishing up school so I couldn't record anything, to trying to find a job so I couldn't record anything, to just being extremely busy at the end of the summer where I couldn't record anything, and then working. And then after September 10th, I believe it was, I was just working. I was just started a new job. So it was tough to get anybody. I was trying to get my feet wet within the job. And so now here we are, and Christmas Day in 2022, talking about like where did it go wrong, and I don't really think it went wrong. I just think things got busy, and I kind of turned my focus more towards sketching up a little more, because sketching up is I don't want to say easier show to do, but this is a very tough show to do consistently when you need a guest consistently. But we're gonna have that all sorted out. Don't worry. I am going to start doing Mad Props again, but we'll get to that at the end of the episode. So that's what happened in 2022. Really quick, let's look back at 2022. So if you weren't around for 2022, or you only caught a couple episodes, we released 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 episodes in 2022. And it started in February 8th. We interviewed Dan Hughes, who was a WNBA coach with the Seattle Storm, won a couple of championships there. One of my favorite episodes I've ever done, actually, was Dan Hughes. He was very insightful. He was all about, he's very about women's basketball and basketball as a whole, and his passion for it and the way he could talk about it. It was just such a good episode. So I will tell you right now, 2022, although very short, had some of my favorite episodes of all time. So highly recommended. That was episode 36 from February 8th, and Justine Siegel. She was a great guest to have on. It was nice consistency there too. That went 2 weeks later, which was nice. And it was just good to have a little consistency there for a minute, but then it kind of all falls apart. The episode 38 was Jordan Thompson, former Gonzaga player, current player for the Washington Mystics, soccer player. That was the first time we were ever in person doing an interview. So that was really cool. Jordan and I were in the same room together doing the interview. She was absolutely great. She talked about her whole story and being at Gonzaga, getting picked. She got picked 50th in the NWSL draft, and then immediately tore her ACL like 3 days into practice. And she actually had their torn ACL going in there. But that one you can watch. You can see us both. We're in the same room. There's a lot of different camera angles. It's great. So that's definitely highly recommended. She was an amazing guest. She was just very, very a good listen. She was a great talker. She had great stories. It's a great listen. Episode 39 was Julius Thomas III. Again, another one of my favorite episodes. Julius is amazing. He played Alexander Hamilton in the traveling show of Hamilton after it went off Broadway. He was an amazing guest. You don't really get much about Hamilton in this episode. You maybe get 5 minutes out of the 45 is about Hamilton. The rest of it is about other stuff, like he's a big comic book guy. He's a big nerd just like I am, and we kind of went in depth about stuff like that. So that's what you get for that one. And if you like comic books, right after that, episode 40 was Scott Koblish. He was the artist on Deadpool for a long time. I met him at a Comic-Con in Spokane, and then he came on the show, and he was great. Very big insight on comic books as a whole, so very cool. 41 was the other solo cast. It was Comics and Courts, which is actually kind of funny because this is episode 43, and that was episode 41. So the two solo casts were kind of back-to-back almost. But that was just, it was something I was trying and didn't work out as much. But that, if you go listen to the Offstage podcast, if you want to hear about all that, I highly accept failure as a part of learning and a part of building something. So go listen to that if you want. And then the last guest we had, the last episode we had on August 15th was Jonathan Osborne of the Sixth Man Show. Sixth Man Show is one of my favorite podcasts about the Orlando Magic, which is my favorite basketball team for anybody that doesn't know. I'm a little all over the place with my teams, but I've liked all my teams for a very long time. So, and if you're an Orlando Magic fan, you're probably not hopping on the bandwagon of teams because they've been bad for a very long time. but he came on. He's Go listen to the Sixth Man Show if you haven't already. It's very good. He came on to talk to us about the show and creating the show. Again, he's another guy that's a little bit of a comic book nerd and a collector of cards and stuff like that. We went all over the place. And it was just, these are some of my favorite episodes I've ever done. They're right up there with the Ryu Cars and the Darren Nefsies and Jim Obergefell, and I can go on a little bit with the list, but they're right up there with all these guys, and it was just a really great. Even though it was a short series in 2022, there was some really good stuff put in there. I will say, the least successful thing of 2022 was Comics and Courts. That I tried to make that my thing, and it just didn't work. It was a lot of fun. If you go back on the socials and check it out, it was a lot of fun. There was some cool stuff on there, but it just didn't work. But I think the most successful thing, even though there weren't a lot of episodes, the transition from more interview style to more casual conversation style really worked. It really worked, and it really made it more interesting to listen to, but also be more interesting to be a part of, and it made the guests more interested as well. Like, you saw interviews going longer each time. Instead of 20 minutes, it was 30. Instead of 30, it was 40. Instead of 40, it was 50. And it kept going up and up and up like that. So I truly think that style really made it more interesting, and it made it a better show overall. So as long as we keep growing off of that, we'll keep going. So like I said in the top, this isn't going to be a long podcast. It's just kind of something to fill in on, go over 2022, go over what happened. We went over what happened, went over 2022. So let's look on to 2023. So I have 2023. I have guests ready to go. Like, we are going to be on in 2023. My goal is to release Mad Props once a month in 2023 to start 2023. The reason I do that is because we're going to start slow. We're going to make sure that I can sustain it with all the other podcasts I'm doing. Plus, I'm working. We're going to try to make sure we can sustain it, which I think we can. I think we have a good chance to do that. And then as we go, we'll always keep once a month. That is a lock. We're going to go once a month. It'll either be in the beginning of the month or more likely towards the end of each month. Seeing as Sketching Up will be once a week on Schnabel Studios, excuse me. And Off Stage will be once a month. It's every second Friday of the month is Off Stage. So with that, and Sketching Up, and we have maybe Southern Hospitality will be starting. And then we might have another show, maybe even two shows that are joining the Schnabel Studios podcast network. So all that put together, once a month, probably towards the end of the month, is probably going to be the resting ground for Mad Props for now. And then I may periodically just drop, random, like, so say we're Tuesdays or we're Mondays. Well, we probably won't be Mondays. Say we're Tuesdays or Thursdays or Fridays. There might be a week where it's not a Mad Props week, but we're dropping that week because we had a guest or we have a new episode and we don't want to wait on it. So Mad Props on the Schnabel Studios page will probably be more periodically done than a set in stone. It'll be probably the only show done like that just because of getting guests and stuff like that. So Mad Props will be back. We plan on doing it once a month. I have guests lined up. They have not been recorded yet, so they're not like sitting in the vaults or anything like that. But there are guests that are ready to come on and ready to talk. I think they're going to be very interesting. And we'll have some guests that you're very familiar with as well, because we'll be promoting Schnabel Studios as well as we're trying to grow as a brand and grow as a podcast. So, like I said, not the longest episode in the world. I just want to keep you guys updated. I want you to know that we are still here. Sketching Up. Mad Props is still alive and well, and we're ready to keep going. We're ready to keep going. We're ready to keep bringing you guests, and we're ready to keep moving on. And I think going into 2023, this is my bold prediction of 2023. Very bold prediction of 2023. I think that Schnabel Studios is going to grow as a little network here a lot more in going into 2023. I think we have a really good foundation, and we have some really good stuff coming up, and we have some really great people that want to get on board. So I would not be surprised if we grow and people start, getting interested and wanting to get involved, because we want everybody to be involved. So thank you guys for being around for 2022. This episode, whatever you want to call it, of Mad Props wraps up the Schnabel Studios slate for 2022. There are no more episodes. After my voice stops on this episode, there are no more episodes of any podcast on Schnabel Studios in 2022. So, I hope you've enjoyed our stuff. Just some Schnabel Studios highlights, because it's, I run the thing and I kind of want to talk about it. Offstage has been a pretty big hit so far for us. For our numbers, at least, it's been doing pretty well. And I just think it's going to go really well. I think it's going to be really good. I think people are really going to enjoy it. Sketching Up has just been picking back up. It kind of fell off and we took a little break, but we've been consistent for a very long time now, months, which is great. And we're going to have a lot of episodes coming out of that. We're actually pushing close to 100 at this point. I believe we're in the 60s, maybe the high 50s. But we're going to get to 100 very soon. Within halfway through the year, we're going to be at 100 episodes. So Sketching Up is pushing. And like I said, there's 1 to 2 shows added on that's coming on. And so we're just growing as a network. So thank you all for listening, not only to Mad Props, but to the Schnabel Studios family. And if you haven't listened to other shows, like I said, go on. You got Spotify. Go to the search Schnabel Studios. You're gonna find it right there. Boom. All the different podcasts we have are gonna come up right there. So do that. You're gonna find stuff there. We want to thank you for listening. Thank you for following Mad Props, even though we really haven't been that consistent. But I'm promising you right now, you're gonna be happy with the results you're gonna see very soon. There's going to be a lot of good stuff coming to you. We got a lot of guests lined up. Not a lot of guests. We have good guests lined up. A couple of guests lined up right now. They're very good guests. This has been the wrap-up of Mad Props. Sorry it's just me. Sorry there's no guest. But this is the wrap-up of Mad Props. We really appreciate you joining us. Don't forget Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at Schnabel Studios, or search Schnabel Studios. You're going to find us. Give us that follow. You can reach out to us on there. We will try to reply to you as soon as possible on there. You can also go to YouTube, search Schnabel Studios. You can watch this. You can watch Sketching Up. You can watch old episodes of Sketching Up. We don't have all the episodes of Sketching Up on there because Sketching Up was an audio podcast for a very long time. Sketching Up has been around since January of 2020. So it's been around for quite some time now. But the other episode, everything else, the full episodes are on there. You want to watch Old Offstage, see what that's all about. Whole series is on there. See some live performances from that. Lots of good stuff on there. So definitely go check that out. That's YouTube at Schnabel Studios. You want to go on Spotify, look us up. Apple Podcasts, look us up, all that stuff. I can repeat it and can repeat it till my face is blue, but you know where to go at this point. Just look Schnabel Studios, Schnabel Studios, and you can find all our stuff. I want to thank you again for joining us. Thank you. Have a great holiday. Have a Merry Christmas if you're listening to this on Christmas. Have a good New Year if it's after that. If it's after the New Year, hopefully we have a new episode coming out soon if that's the case. But thank you guys for listening so much. Have a great holiday, and we will see you or hear from you next time at Schnabel Studios and on Mad Props. I'm Chris Schnabel. See you later.